provided there were countries willing to accept them.
Exactly.
Now, Britain was one of many countries who were willing to accept the children, but they had to raise funds to find the money to take the children anywhere. So the Kindertransport, as it was known, was transporting children Jewish children out of Germany and out of Austria.
Was it half Jews?
No, half Jews,
Nobody
Jews.
taught, then
Those
nobody
days,
asked for half
Those
Jews.
days, there was no such a thing as half
It
Jews.
There was
Only-
nothing like it. A Jew is a
Because
Jew.
what I was told is it was only half Jews.
No, nonsense, nonsense. No, nothing to do
There was
with
a
half
film.
Jews.
There was a film.
No, the
No.
film that was about the children that they evacuated. That is something else to America.
No.
From England,
There
when
was
they
a
were
very good
bombing
film
and all
about
that.
a family just like that. And I thought maybe I was wrong. That it
No.
was half Jews.
No.
There was nothing like half
So
Jews.
children,
It's only
why would a
Yeah, they have
family,
German parents and Jewish
why
parents.
would a German, okay, so I'm just trying to imagine a German Jewish family. Because I mean, my father's
Yeah.
also from a
Yeah.
German Jewish
Yeah.
family, and he left in 1938.
Yeah.
Why would someone, I guess a family couldn't leave unless someone was willing to support them. I know
That's
my
right.
parents had
And
to wait for someone
they
to
weren't
say.
willing to support anyone over the age of 15.
Right, okay,
So,
so parents
adults could-
understood that this was the last
that's right.
chance.
So, Ingrid, Ferdi and I going on a Kindertransport automatically excluded my mother from traveling with us. And Ottie, you were too old as
I
well.
was too old in any case.
That's right, you were too
So,
old.
yes. And
So in
for
fact-
me, somebody paid 50 pounds.
Pound?
That's right,
And for my mother.
you're too old.
Somebody
But you
paid
were
that
just left on the
because they
station on
knew-
your own.
That's right.
They knew that they
That's frightening,
Well,
I feel.
You can't believe it, you can't
We
believe
were left on the
what
station
happened
on
to
your own.
us.
No, we-
That my mother
they
actually
went
took us
onto
to the railway
onto
station and
the-
left us there. She
We-
didn't even know who was going to
going
pick
to
us
look
up
after
and
that, yeah.
and
And
who
I
was
was
gonna
with
take
her
us?
because I know, I was there when Wolfgang went away. And it was very hard for her. To send
Went
a
away.
child on a train to Israel, which wasn't Israel,
unknown
to an
country.
unknown place.
They went to Italy first, no?
I don't know
Yeah.
how they got
But it was
they
the
got
same with
there.
them, because they went on the
in a
train
transfer.
from Hamburg.
and they wouldn't let us into Holland.
They had to walk over the border into Holland.
When we got to
On your own,
Holland,
the three of you on your own?
Yeah.
no,
You were
the
picked up.
other children.
So he
And
didn't
we never
actually
knew who
lie
the
to
other
you
children
and
were.
send them home.
But there was some adult.
He
who-
went,
Yes.
he got
Must have
Holland.
He
Must
came
be.
on.
But
But then they were
we
adopted.
prepared everything. We prepared these big books for Wolfgang. And the same thing I had to do for the three children. I had to stay at home from school.
But they weren't
Sign
allowed to
all
carry
the
things
clothes,
when
and there
they
was
were
a
kids.
list. You had to make a list.
Oh.
So many socks, so many this, so many that. You had to put it into their
But
suitcase.
when they got on
But
the
we had
train,
no
And when
luggage.
they
had
were on
no
the train,
luggage.
they had luggage.
Well,
But when they got on the train, he said they had no luggage.
Yes,
we
they
came,
had.
when we arrived in England, we had nothing.
You didn't have a suitcase.
No, we had
Everything
nothing.
was put in a suitcase.
Nothing at all.
A suitcase.
When we arrived at Dover Court Bay holiday cabin,
Yeah, you didn't have a
we
suitcase.
had nothing at
And
all.
Ingrid
except-
was writing back.
How do you remember that?
She's reading.
Yeah, did you have any photographs from back home? Nothing?
Yes, newspapers.
Nothing.
The whole that.
We had nothing. As a matter of fact, we thought, I mean, I'll be honest with you, I was very dramatic because I thought the whole thing was an adventure. I found it all very exciting. And when I got tired, I actually wanted to go home. I had enough of the adventure, I had enough of the excitement.
He's 11-year-old, right? He's
Yeah,
11?
Can I go home now, please? And everybody says, oh, no, you can't go home. You're safe now. And then what do you mean by safe?
Safe,
I'm in a strange place, I can't speak the language. And then people adopted us. I mean, Ingrid was adopted by other people.
By the Lawrence?
We were adopted by people who had no idea at all
But it was a single lady.
Of what?
of anything. They
She was
didn't
the
know.
head of the British Red
They
Cross.
simply did what they thought was the right thing to do.
But they didn't even know what,
They
I
didn't-
don't think they
jealousy of a child at that
Un-
age. What
They didn't know
Uncle
a
John,
Jew from a
Uncle
Jew.
John, who was the brother of Lady Helen,
There was a title.
Nettersaw.
lady.
he actually was a major general in the British Army.
Wait, but they knew you were German Jewish children?
No, they had vague idea about
the
it.
they were.
They thought
Refugees.
They knew they were
We called them
refugees, that we were refugees, and they were doing the right thing. They had a very large farmhouse in the country, and with horses and cows.
Yes,
Very,
and
very-
Wait, they adopted you and your brother?
yeah, and then they got rid of my brother because he was actually old enough to go to work because he was
But
13.
you both went to school together.
For a very short time. But they weren't very happy with
They
Ferdi
couldn't
at all.
understand what they're doing in the school. They didn't understand anything.
No?
We
How old
have
was he?
immigrants,
13,
yes,
14?
somewhere.
I was 11.
And he and your
And
brother?
Ferdi was 13.
But I mean, when you both went to school, you were in boarding school.
Yeah.
And the thing was, they never spoke English, so they always talked to each other in German, quietly.
So,
And so
so
the
the
headmaster...
teachers thought it was best to separate my brother and I because to stop us speaking German to one another.
Oh,
But they couldn't speak English to
We
anybody.
couldn't speak English.
But also your brother had a thing because your mother said to him, you must take care of
That's
the other
right,
ones."
because she said to Ferdi, you're the eldest. Now
Like a mother does.
you've got to look after, Ingrid and Hansi. And he didn't know how to look after anybody at 13 years of age. And the awful thing is that the first thing that they did is they took Ingrid away from us. Because boys and girls of that age don't...
Not in the same dormitory.
it was only 9.
She was-
yeah, that's right.
She was adopted by the Lawrences at that time?
By the Lawrences, yeah. But the Lawrences were very good people. The only thing is that their motive, and I'm sure Ingrid agrees with this, was a religious one because they were Plymouth Brethren and they wanted to evangelize. Here-
Oh, it was the good in them.
Yes, that's right.
They were very, very
But
people.
that's what
They were
Larry's
very, very
saying.
good.
Mum and
But the
Dad.
motive was not goodness.
No.
The motive was actually
Conversion.
to
Conversion, yeah.
convert a
She
child.
said no. Her husband went to the army
was in
in
the Navy.
the Navy. She kept another girl from the town, from London.
And
And
then
he was
evacuated from the
there,
bombing.
then evacuated from London where the
With
bombing
the
was
bombing
going on.
happening.
3 boys of her own and Ingrid that was always doing exactly the opposite of what she wanted.
Ingrid
from her.
still does it, Artie.
She's
Yeah,
such-
then she was very difficult. She was very
always a
difficult.
difficult
She was
child.
very
She wanted so
difficult.
much to have a girl, because she had 3 boys. and she
Mum.
wanted- So she taught her how to work in the garden, and she said everybody has to work in the garden because you had to teach
You have to
the
grow
garden.
your own food.
You had to
because we had
grow your
no
own food. There was no food.
Because Britain is an
England.
island, you have to import
Yes,
everything.
everything
But
was...
this thing about Ingrid, I always think her such a lovely lady. I
She's a
Yes,
lovely
but
lady,
she
but she was
Yeah.
very
She was a
contrary.
very contrary girl.
She's very
And she
difficult.
didn't have to work with
That's why I
the
like her.
chicken.
What she
That's
needed,
what we like her so much.
what she needed was psychiatric help when she was a young
Yes,
girl.
because
And
She
never-
missed mum and dad, she
She
missed
missed
home.
her house, her home,
She
her
wanted to go
brothers,
home.
her
It
sisters.
seems very normal to me.
Yes, it's very normal.
And you don't understand a word of what
Yes.
people are saying. But Dad Lawrence was very good.
Yes,
When he
was
came
very
home on
good.
leave,
Of course,
he used to
he was-
read to her and talk to her and that. But she used to scream.
They
She's
used
still
to,
kicking,
they
she's
used to,
missing her
no,
parents. And
they
you look
used
at that
to,
picture
when we
of
were
her
still in
photo.
Germany, they wrote a letter to us. Does she have to have a night light? You see, that's the,
All these
if
little
she
normal
was
things.
frightened in the night in the dark, and we never were frightened in the dark. We
Because
used
you
to
were
go
at home.
to- When I go,
There were so many
went
of
to
us.
bed in the dark.
There were so many of us. If there was something to
Yes,
say
we were
there.
always together.
But your mum and dad
We were
were there
very much
too.
together. We grew up so much together. We always played together.
Look how old I am,
We
I still
hardly
have
had
that
any
light.
birthday.
You had a light on.
No, the funny thing is she never had a dad, you see. Ingrid never had a dad.
But she had a mum and she had big
Yeah,
brothers.
but she had big brothers.
Yeah.
But Dad Lawrence, the people that adopted her, Dad Lawrence was marvellous. Ingrid to this day says,
But
Dad was
But
so
also
good.
that
knowing
little
the
woman,
English.
how strong
Oh,
she
Mum
was.
Lawrence was lovely.
She was a woman, I've never seen this high.
She's a little lady.
She was a little woman, and she ran the house. There were so many children, husband, no
3
dad.
boys and
The
2
boys-
adopted
But then
boys.
Larry, don't you
have
think
to
that a lot of the English,
together.
particularly the
She
English
made
people that
all
adopted you,
chickens and
And
all
the
kinds of
clue.
things,
Had the
they
clue.
would have
They didn't
something to
even
eat.
know what it was
because
about.
they were doing the good
Everything was
deed
in
for the
their garden.
country.
That was the first time they had ever met anybody who was Jewish.
Who?
The people who required me.
Well, there were a lot of them like that because they would come from the voluntary services.
Yeah, unfortunately, yes,
But
I
you
mean,
watched
Lady
them
Helen.
and then
Lady
they
Helen
would
was the
love
head of the
them.
British Red Cross.
Oh, she knew it was the British Red Cross.
All
And
the
then she
stiff
said,
upper
we'll take
lip
the 2
and,
boys.
my darlings, you don't do this and you don't do that, you know, you don't know
Lord,
what it is
how
as a
she
child.
talked. She had a fur
Yes,
and she
yes.
was going to.
She was very grand.
Yes.
And they went in a Rolls Royce with the gardener and the chauffeur.
Oh yes, the chauffeur.
There's a chauffeur and a gardener that looked after
And
them.
she used to threaten me with a horse crop. You know,
But
I mean,
fancy having
there
2
was another side to all
little
that.
boys.
that, I mean, I once walked ahead of her through a door, and she struck me with
Boys
a
don't
riding
go
crop.
ahead of ladies through a door, not in that
Don't
kind
you
of...
ever do that again, you know.
There's so much to strange things that the
You know,
child
I mean,
has to get used
You
to.
grew up to the age of 18 with these people?
no, it was much more complicated than that. Because first, I mean, one of the worst things that happened, which people don't understand, and actually when I wrote about it some years ago, I had a lot of correspondence from people who had had similar experiences. And that was, at the end of the war, everybody, because the war only lasted 4.5
Only,
years.
nothing.
Only, yeah.
I mean, that's a short time, really.
Yeah.
But at the end of the war, my greatest fear was that where do I go now? Because I belong nowhere.
You don't have a passport.
And the terrible thing is that I was outside Buckingham Palace cheering for the King and the Queen, as it was at the time, and Winston Churchill came on the balcony and we cheered and what have you. And I was arrested. You know, somebody touched me on the shoulder and said, "Excuse me, have you got your identity card on you?" And I was in 1945, I was born in 1927, so I was 18 years old. Why wasn't I in uniform? Why wasn't I in the army? Who are you? And I was arrested. And I was taken to what they used to have blue boxes in England, which was like a mini police station. And I was practically charged with being a deserter from the army.
But you were the citizen.
I know, but they didn't know that.
I mean, Hans had the
How
same
did they
thing.
know that?
How come you weren't, I mean, how come you weren't made a citizen at some point? I mean,
Because you weren't. I was actually a friendly alien, and I had an identity card.
But you weren't allowed to have a
and a
bike.
registration book.
You wasn't allowed.
I wasn't allowed to go anywhere without
Going
reporting.
to the
Police
police.
station.
Everywhere
Everything
have
you had
got
to
the books
report.
there.
So in fact, my greatest fear was that now that the war was over, I was going to be sent back to Germany. And
And they had gone to
my
war.
nightmare really started when the war finished. And the terrifying thing is I was by then entirely on my own. I didn't belong to anything, I didn't belong to anybody, you know, and that was the most frightening thing. And the strange thing is I got involved with UNRWA, the United Nations Relief and Rehabilitation, and they actually gave me a job to select children from the concentration camps.
Wow, we were.
To be educated and rehabilitated in Loughton in Essex.
how
And
is,
so I wore a uniform, but I had no nationality, I had nothing at all, and I was absolutely petrified that somebody's going to tap me on the shoulder and somehow or another send me somewhere else, because it didn't belong to anything or anybody. And the strange thing was about that time that I met up with the people on Hashallah
That you're going to see
that
tomorrow.
I'm going to see tomorrow. And people don't understand what that was about.
Explain who
The
these
whole
people are.
Nazi business.
Did they have the same experience that you had? Those Akshara people? Those Akshara people. Did they had the same experience that you had?
No,
of
because
not
most of
belong-
them were English Jews.
Oh.
But the strange thing actually is that they have since written to me to say that they understood nothing. They had no idea at all
Because they had
what was
families
happening
somewhere.
to other Jewish young people. They all thought they came from Manchester, they came from Leeds, they came from Glasgow, they came from Newcastle. They hadn't got a clue what was going on in
Then
Europe.
why didn't the English people who were taking care of these kinders, what do they call the kinder
Yeah.
Kids transport.
why didn't they ask the Jewish people who were living in England
Because
to
the
come
Jewish
and
people
help?
didn't want to know. The Jewish people didn't want to know.
There were some Jewish people, I'm really sad
no,
to
it's
say
not-
it,
I-
but I was with a girl together, we were together in a hostel where all the
Did you ever go to
children
the
came
Golden
from,
Triangle?
you know,
Yes.
and when I was
Yeah, the
learning, I lived
I
in a
told
hostel.
you earlier today.
And
They were
in one-
arguing about
and it was
whether
both.
the
And another
Danish
hostel
pastries
had
were
to come
kosher.
to the
That was
hostel where I
important.
That was
It's
important.
true.
And one of the rabbis said to me, he said, "You're not a Jew anyway." I said, "Why?" He said, "You're walking down the street without a capo."
That's my father's story all over again and again.